Hey guys, I'm here with another video about Assassin's Creed Shadows. Before I get into some of my tips and tricks about this game's photo mode in specific, I just want to give a little update on how I was feeling about the game. I was kind of lukewarm on my first video. I had been about 10 hours in. Since then, I've gotten to enjoy it a lot more. Something I said in the last video was it doesn't do anything better than Ghost of Tsushima, and I now revoke that statement, and I will say, regarding locations and scale, Assassin's Creed Shadows is far more impressive. It feels massive. When you get to these areas that just overlook entire towns or these really jaw-dropping vistas, it really flexes its muscles. But anyway, let's get into it. A few tips and tricks for how to take some better photos in Assassin's Creed Shadows. So I bring this up pretty much anytime I do a video talking about tips on how to take better photos. And that's my little depth of field process, I guess you could say. I do this in every single photo mode I use when I'm trying to get focus with a perfect bokeh, and that will differ from game to game. But what I always do when I'm trying to get things in focus is I will take the depth of field all the way down to the lowest it can go. So get things in a really tight focus. Even if this isn't going to be my final focus amount, I bring it all the way down so I can get my subject in the tightest focus possible, just so I know for sure that the thing I am trying to shoot is as sharp as it can be. So I'll bring it all the way down, and then I'll go from there and start to adjust, the strength of the aperture and whatnot. So that's just something I always do. It helps to make sure that what you're getting is absolutely in focus. Because, depending on what TV you're shooting on, depending if you're, maybe playing on a handheld, screens can be a little deceptive with what is actually in focus, so I always do this. Another note on depth of field, don't go too intense with it, and this also applies to many other games. It is tempting to get something really sharp and focused and then just let everything be hyper blurred, and that can work sometimes if you're going for a certain stylized look, but with this game in particular, too much depth of field, too much blur doesn't look natural. It just looks overly produced. It just looks unbelievable. So yeah, I would recommend get it in a sharp focus and then bring it back like 2 to 3 steps. Just rein it in a little bit. I just don't go over the top with the blur. If the background is so blurred out that it just looks like it ends up looking 2D in a way, you want a little bit of a fade with that blur. You want it to have that organic camera-like transition. So don't go too much with the blur. Something I stumbled upon that I didn't really think about using as a tool until I thought of it and was like, oh, I can use this. Depending on which direction you look, left or right, your character will look in that way. So that can be really helpful. So say you have your character, perched on a rooftop and you want them looking in a certain direction, just look with the camera and they'll tilt their head that way. And then you can use that as a tool to, just direct where your character's looking. There's not posing in Assassin's Creed Shadows, but I guess this is as close as we can get. I found it sometimes useful to use autofocus even when you think you can manually get things in focus the way you want, because sometimes I'll have the framing just the way I want it, and I'm realizing, with this positioning, my character's not in focus even though I've manually done it. It either goes past them or it's too far in front of them, the focus line. So sometimes if you have things in frame and you're not getting the character in focus, just click autofocus and it will adjust it to lock onto the character. Another tip that I often bring up in other videos is using foliage. I love putting the camera a little bit further away behind a tree or a branch, bushes, anything, and then using that, adjusting the depth of field and giving that little blur. It gives the shot this kind of voyeuristic, documentary almost feel. I love doing this in games. It works very well in Shadows because there's a lot of foliage. There's a lot of moving foliage, which is exciting. A lot of times leaves or particles, fire, whatever is moving. So if you can get that in your foreground to give the shot a bit of a texture, and again, it's all just creating depth, because when that is blurred out in the front, your eye is telling you, oh, we're in this 3D space. It works really well in this game. Be careful with brightness and HDR. Some games are good about this, some are not. I have found Ubisoft is kind of bad about this, where you'll be looking at one shot, you'll take it, you'll go and look at the photo you took in your library, and the highlights are completely blown out. Where once was a cloud is just a white blob. Looks terrible. So I recommend often, especially if you're getting the sky in the shot, tone back the brightness a little bit, bring the highlights down, and then when you take the shot, it will turn out much more accurate to how you would have wanted it to. So just be careful about that. The last thing I'll mention is seasons. This isn't something you can change in the photo mode, which to me is very unfortunate. They should totally add that in, but you can pretty quickly change seasons. It does have some gameplay effects, but if you're in an area and you want to get, a sort of time-lapse shot and take the same angle and change the seasons, go for it. You can manually change the season whenever you want. That is pretty cool, and the game radically transforms based on what season you're in. It's really cool. So anyway, those were just some tips I had while using the photo mode. I'm absolutely loving it. I have taken probably 400 to 500 photos in this game, so it's a lot of fun. But anyway, if you have an account on Bluesky, hit me up, tag me. I'd love to see the photos you're taking if you want to share them. And just a reminder, if you like videos like this, if you're enjoying the channel, please subscribe. But if you absolutely hated this video, absolutely nothing good about it, please slap that thumbs down button. I'd really appreciate it. Till next time.